I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business is to go into closed session. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following under Section 2.2-3711, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or for the disposition of publicly held real property where a discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position of the negotiating strategy of the public body. And we have one item there, and that's the former Blacksburg Middle School property. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Creed? Aye. Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Bates?
Aye.
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 Aye. We're in closed
You look nice
meeting.
in there.
Good evening and welcome to our board meeting. Our first order of business is a motion to go out of closed session.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second to go out of closed meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
For the time that I was there, yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next order is certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia, hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. I have a motion for...
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
For the time that I was there, yes.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Our next order of business is our invocation, and what we do is observe a moment of silence to reflect upon the business at hand. And after observing that moment of silence, we'll be led by the pledge, led by Mr. Meadows in the pledge.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Our next item is presentations, recognitions, and awards. We have 3 presentations on our agenda, and the first one is Mr. David Clark from the Virginia Department of Transportation. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good evening. To update you sort of a little bit on what's been going on with some of the projects over the last couple of months. I don't think I was able to be here last month. We are working, as you all know, y'all probably know, on Route 603 North Fork Road between Interstate 81 and Route 11. That project is ongoing. It'll be ongoing for a while. You know that road will have to be closed for a time while they do some blasting and widen the road out. We're going to try to keep that to a minimum, of course. There's a project ongoing at 460 on the south end of Blacksburg. It's just off of South Main Street. It's really Research Center Drive. Building a turn lane, right turn lane onto Research Center Drive from Industrial Drive. That's going to help that traffic move through that signal quite a bit. They've done most of the work in there, but it's going to have to get some warmer weather before we can put the asphalt on and finish it up. That's scheduled to complete at the end of May. We're currently working on a unpaved road in Allegheny Springs area. It's Mount Pleasant Road. We're doing the second section of that from the bridge to Split Railroad. It's about a 2-mile section, almost a 2-mile section. That's scheduled to be completed also in May. There's a project going on right now in Lafayette on the bridge, Old Truss Bridge across the North Fork, the Roanoke River, about 773. They poured a couple of the spans. There's still one entire span that's not yet poured. That still has about a year and a half left on it before the completion date on it. Quite a few projects going on right now, really. They're doing some minor bridge work on several bridges. One right now being Dry Valley Road. We have that closed right now, Route 787. That's the superstructure replacement. That's the part from the piers up. It's not a complete bridge replacement, it's just the beams and the deck. That's still got several weeks left to go before it's done. That's probably it for the projects that are ongoing. We also have several that should start up this summer, including Piney Woods Road. That's the paving of that unpaved road, the entire, pretty much the length of it that's left, still unpaved. We are working on getting Sydney Church, part of Sydney Church paved. We're going to have to do that in 2 projects. More on that a little bit later. We're working on trying to get an ad date pretty soon on that, so it won't have to go through the winter. We're working on 639, that's a revenue sharing project, the other section of Mount Pleasant from Split Rail up the mountain. That's just to do some widening on it. We're not going to do the paving part under this revenue sharing project. We can address next year whether the board would be interested in pursuing that. We're doing very preliminary work on Brush Creek Road, 617, to do the same thing. It's a revenue sharing project. There'll be some widening and I think some surface treatment along with that one. And of course, the big project is going to be starting this summer, Southgate Drive interchange. Large interchange at Southgate Drive and 460. That will be a several-year project, but the bids should come back, I think, this month on that. I'm sure it'll be in the press and everything like that when it does come in, but I will update the board when those bids come in. Along with that is it's not really part of this project, but they're doing it in conjunction with it, is relocating Research Center Drive around expanded airport. They're lengthening the runway of the airport. So all that's going to be done sort of at the same time. Not the airport part, but the relocation of that road. The airport will, but that's a completely separate one. Different contractor, different money, different everything. The airport's handling that. Maintenance items that we've been working on the last month have been pretty much the typical wintertime things that we can get done in this kind of weather. A couple tree removals. Took out some trees on Brush Mountain, out on Craigs Creek Road on Mount Tabor, and some sort of one major pipe replacement. Fixed a bad drainage problem up Peddler Hollow Road, Peddler Road, from that exit 128 on that side, and we also had to fix some drainage problems, pipe replacements on North Fork Road, where we were getting some icing problems back when we were having such cold weather, followed by some rain. We are currently working with traffic engineering on determining, we had a request to look at through trucks on North Fork Road, basically going from exit 28 towards Ellett area. And we've had some success with with signs that say they are not recommended. We can do that just on ourselves. To actually prohibit trucks requires a public hearing and a much more extensive process, but we can see if this helps out some. We're determining where to put those signs right now without blanketing the area of signs. We think the major issue is going basically from the exit 128 area towards Elliott Store, that kind of area right in there. I can take, before I get into some more things on Sydney Church Road, I can take any questions the board might have. I know I just threw a lot of information at you, but any questions or requests the board has, I can take that now, and then we'll get into a request I have of you all.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, I've just got one. It has to do with Mount Pleasant Road, the bridge. I was over that road last week and got to that bridge, and I started to turn around and go back, and I said, no, I owe it to whoever the bus driver is going to be bringing kids across this thing to go across it. There are some holes that are 6 to 10 inches deep and yay big on that little single lane bridge that I don't know how they're going across there when things are real good, much less when they...
It's in the bridge deck itself, or is it in the end, at the end?
It's
Like when you get off the bridge
in
usually?
most all of it.
Okay. There's still a ways off, but there is a project in development right now to replace that bridge. But obviously it needs maintenance in between that, just to let you know.
And, you know, one of the big problems is that, you know, they've been kind of working on and off of that bridge for a couple, 3 years now. And they have actually told some of the people down there, the people that were working on it, that bridge was very dangerous. So,
It's narrow and it's due for replacement, but we would post it for a lower if it were in danger of collapsing or anything. They inspect that. That may even be on a 6-month inspection. Some of our bridges are on 2-year inspection, some are on 6 months.
yeah, nasty.
Is that it, Mr. Green?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. King?
We discussed it on Fairview Church, the low water bridge. Where are we at on that?
Yeah, I think they're probably scheduling that. That's going to require some environmental permits, but I'll see. I think that whole thing needs to be replaced, not just a matter of cleaning out.
Okay, and on...
But I'll find out where it is in the schedule and let you know.
All right, appreciate it. And on Pig Pack, Meadow Creek Road, talked to several bus drivers on that road. You know, we got a lot of log trucks run up down through there and 18-wheelers. And I got a stipulation of what you got to have wrecks and all this. A couple months ago, there's a log truck going a little bit too fast and rolled over on that. Is there some way we can deter these big trucks from traveling that? I know one stipulation is you got to have a separate route. Well, they can keep going down Route 81 and get on Route 8. Is there some way, like you said, you're just going to put that sign up?
We have a lot. I don't know how many signs you want up on. And we can either ask for not recommended, or we can go through the process of prohibiting them. That's up to the board.
Well, the majority of the people I talk to out on that road, they like to prohibit them from coming out there. I know when they put new bridges up, they took the weight limits off of them.
Right. But yeah, it's a narrow, very narrow road, very narrow and a lot of turns on. I wouldn't want to drive a truck down there.
Yeah. I mean, I know one thing, you know, we take fire trucks down that road, you know, we do need that road to get to one section, but I'd like to see you deter the 18-wheelers and the log trucks from coming down through there.
Okay. I'll look into that. I'll give a report on what sort of our possibilities are. Since we're looking at 603, I'll have the same people look at that one too.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Tuck?
In regards to Elliott Road, it appears that you tried to do, or there was some maintenance that tried to be done. It was like a thin coat of pavement, and it now, instead of a lot of big potholes, it's like a lot of small potholes. Is there a plan to try to do additional maintenance to Elliott?
This is the upper section?
Near the Christiansburg, if you come into the Cambria, and then following it on down?
What we're having, we may need to do some more work on the slope. I don't know if you've recognized it before. We were having some longitudinal cracks in the road and sort of crescent-shaped cracks, which indicated a settling. We were afraid the slope was failing down further below. We're going to look into that and perhaps use a process called soil nails, which sort of pins the slope. But we can patch what was there, and that's about all we can do in the wintertime. It'll need to be overlaid for sure.
Okay, is that something that will be probably done in the summer then?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Clark? Dave?
I have one thing I'd like to, if I could get the board to do. You've passed resolutions before designating roads rural rustic roads. The board has had quite a bit of success doing that. Craig's Creek Road was done that way. Mount Pleasant Road was done that way. I'll give you the what the actual meaning of designating one is. And if the board would, I would like you to pass a resolution tonight designating Sidney Church Road. It's in your 6-year plan, designating as a rural rustic road. That way we can move forward with our design. And what we'll do is we'll find a resolution that is very similar to what you've passed before. Substitute Sidney Church for, say, Craig's Creek. But the gist of the resolution would, what the board is saying when you're doing that is it's allowing VDOT to use a standard that's really more in tune with the nature of the road. It reduces the footprint that we have to put out there on a lot of the larger standards. It's made for roads like this with traffic count. The guidelines say less than 400. We don't have anywhere near that in this county. There's in fact less than 200 on Sidney Church. And by passing the resolution designating it as a rural rustic road, you're saying that in the foreseeable future there's not going to be any major development. Traffic count is less than 400, indeed less than 200, and that you're doing it for the entire length of the road between Route 663 Fairview Church Road and Route 673 Camp Carriesbrook Road, a distance of approximately 2 miles.
Could you send that in an email to Mr. Meadows?
Yes, I can send you all that information.
We can probably put it on our next agenda.
It'd be all right. Do you need it to be on this agenda? Is there a
It would
reason?
help, yes.
It would help.
We could send that down, and we could be working on some of the preliminary stuff now.
Just to help us understand why you need to move on it quickly, is there a specific reason?
We would like to get this advertised in March, because when you advertise a project, it's out to bid for a month. So if you advertise it in March, the bids come back in April. When they come back in April, there's another month before the CTB, Commonwealth Transportation Board, will approve the bid, and then another month before a contractor can begin work. So you've got 3 months between the time it's put out to bid. So March, April, May, and June, they wouldn't be able to start work until June if we can get it in March. If we wait any longer, we're hoping that if we can get it advertised in March, that they can complete the project in 2015 construction season. If we wait any longer, that they will not be able to do the grading work before the cold weather hits in, say, October, November, and they'll have to wait all winter long to pave it. And I hate putting you up against this, but
Well,
it's just
I mean,
it's a request.
you said something in March. Would our 23rd meeting, if we pass a resolution there, would that make it too late for you?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the one on the 23rd of this month.
It'd be the 23rd.
Yeah, I mean 23rd of February. We got a second week this month.
The next one this month.
Yeah. Would that?
We can try it. If not, I mean, we either winter the project or it goes next year. I mean, I'm trying to get too big a hurry on some of these, but it would be nice if we could. But that road's been a dirt road for a long time. It can go another season too.
If we could pass that resolution, I wouldn't have a problem with it, and adding it as a part of the
You can add
addendum.
them as addendum.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
Do you have any?
You have any problems with that, Mr. Attorney?
Nope.
Okay, we'll put it on our
When it
addendum
comes
for
to
tonight.
addendum, we can just make a motion at that point in time. And there's another matter I would like to
To be
put on the agenda as well, so that we can maybe do both of those.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Okay, we have a presentation from Retired Seniors Volunteer Program, an update. Welcome, Angela.
Good afternoon, good evening now. As the director of the RSVP program, or the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, for the past 14 years, I'm here tonight to publicly thank you for the support you provided in sponsoring this program for the last 38 years of its existence. I want you to know what a positive program your support provides for our community. Not only does it allow citizens 55 and older to be actively engaged in volunteer work, it provides much needed assistance and extra helping hands to the area's nonprofits, governmental agencies, and healthcare organizations. In 2014, we had 336 volunteers who were enrolled with our program. They gave 69,077 hours of service to 73 different organizations throughout the New River Valley. We wish to thank you, the Board of Supervisors, Craig Meadows and Carol Edmonds, the County Administration, Mary Kritzer, the Human Services Director, and all of the county's departments and employees who've assisted us or supported RSVP in some way. The level of support that we have received has ensured the successes that we've had over the years. You've helped us develop a strong presence in Montgomery County and Radford. And the caliber of volunteers that we have are absolutely amazing, and they are willingly give their time and talents every day in an effort to serve others. Their strong work ethic and enthusiasm is appreciated by the agencies and clients that they assist. And these citizens live and volunteer in each district across the county in Radford, and they make this community a better place for all of us to live. I'd just like to share a few of the ways in which they are making a difference, and then I'll have a couple of other folks who are going to share a couple things with you as well. We work with several organizations by preparing their mass mailings for them each month, and this requires basically stuffing envelopes. And last year, we had 4 organizations who reported that the amount of money raised through the letters that we stuffed was a grand total of $299,297. Not used to talking in these 6-digit figures. This included organizations such as NRV Cares, the Women's Resource Center, the Humane Society of Montgomery County, and the Christmas Store. So even though our volunteers are doing something that the other people don't have time to do, it's making a big impact with the agencies that we do assist. We had 9 volunteers who assisted over 1,100 clients during the 2013 tax season file their federal tax returns. We're doing a special focus on serving our veterans and military families. Just this past year, our volunteers have clipped and sent over $450,000 in manufactured coupons to families on bases in Japan and Germany to be used in the PXs there. We regularly go to the Salem Veterans Medical Center and write numerous cards and letters to the deployed troops. Our volunteers staff 3 area thrift shops, and in the past year earned over $150,000 for emergency assistance in the Humane Society just by working with donated items and in recycling and repurposing things. One of our main focuses has been in the past couple of years is feeding programs for the hungry. Our volunteers cook and serve in the soup kitchens. They pack backpacks for the children in schools. They pick up donated foods from all of the stores in the area who donate foods from the dining halls at Tech and Radford University and get that food to places that can use it. They work at the Feeding America warehouse in Salem, and they man our food pantries all across the county. So hundreds of individuals and families are fed each month because of our volunteers. With me tonight, I have two very active volunteers who will be highlighting some of the special projects in which they help. Sally Anna Stapleton is the chairperson of our RSVP Advisory Council and has volunteered in many capacities. And Dina Flincham, who is a VICAP insurance counselor through the Agency on Aging and also serves as the county's representative on their board of directors, will share on what she does. And thank you again for your support of our program.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dina Flincham, and I do absolutely represent Montgomery County on the Agency on Aging Board. And I'd like to thank you, in addition, for your support for RSVP, for granting me that honor. I also serve as the treasurer of the New River Valley Agency on Aging Board. I want to talk very briefly about the VICAP program that the Agency on Aging has. I've been a volunteer since 2007, and shortly after that time, I became involved with the Agency on Aging's VICAP program, which stands for Virginia Insurance Counseling and Assistance Program. Now, what does that actually do? What we do is we help people who are beneficiaries of Medicare. We help people from the day that they first qualify and are able to go on to Medicare. And even more difficult is to help them with their Medicare Part D drug plans, which change every year religiously. We have to sit down and help people go through all of the options and to see if we can save them some money. As you may have heard, over 10,000 people a day age into Medicare. And all of them don't live in the New River Valley, but sometimes it seems like it. And one of the most important things that we can do is to help some of our seniors, especially those who are low income, to save as much money as they can. There are, in addition to the one staff person, Elizabeth Ray, who works at the Agency on Aging, we had 10 volunteers. 8 of those, I'm proud to say, were RSVP Montgomery County and Radford volunteers. In 2013, by comparative shopping, we did not do anything more than help people make good judgment calls. We saved the good folks of the New River Valley $389,956. That was in 2013. I thought that was pretty good. 2014, $494,869, close to $500,000. If any of your constituents want to know what you've done for them lately, I suggest you pull these figures out. All of this was done with volunteers, except of course for the one staff person. And I am happy to say that you were able to afford us a place where we could actually meet with these folks down at the office with the RSVP people. And it's been your success as well, because I can guarantee you that a substantial portion of that money will be spent right here, certainly in the New River Valley, and most of it probably in Montgomery County. I just want to thank you once again for allowing me to serve on the Agency on Aging Board and to represent you. And I think that this is a marvelous thing that we do together down here. And I can safely say to you that the people truly appreciate it. I am more than happy to leave a copy of the little article that I write for the News Journal and the News Messenger, if anyone would like a copy that explains in more detail what we do. So if I may leave that with you, that would be great. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
All I like to say is, Dana, my family's been a recipient of the service that you provide, and we really appreciate what you've done for us as far as Medicare. And we're very lucky to have you. And I hope you'll be around for another 25 or 30 years, because a lot of those people in the audience are going to need you too.
Well, thank you very much, and I ain't going to work.
Oh, bless her.
Good evening. My name is Sally Ann Stapleton. I'm going into my 5th year as a volunteer with RSVP, and I think I'm a good example of a lot of the volunteers that work within RSVP. I currently volunteer as a screener at the Community Health Center. I also volunteer at Good Samaritan Hospice. Currently, we're making blankets for veterans that come into the hospice system there. I've worked at the McKeep Community Action, the Red Cross blood drives. I've helped deliver bags, tote bags to the local nursing homes. I've worked down Salem at the food bank. I've worked at the Veterans Salem Hospital on occasion. I've gone up to Radford University and spoke with the GNAP classes, explaining what the volunteers do and how we keep ourselves busy once we retire. I love to get out in the community and promote RSVP, because they've become somewhat of a family to me since I moved into the New River Valley. I think what I love most about RSVP is that they give back to the community so much. RSVP every single year provides at least 2 or 3 scholarships to the high school students within Montgomery County, students that are pursuing human resources and or medical degrees. The scholarship dollars generally come from money that RSVP volunteers have raised during the year. Another project that is dear to my heart is our Supplies for Seniors project. This project has gone into its 7th year, and as a result of this project, it allows RSVP to gather and deliver household and personal items to homebound seniors during the winter months. In the 7 years that Supplies for Seniors has grown, we have gone from delivering just to homebound seniors to supplying these supplies to women who are currently seeking temporary shelter at the Women's Resource Center, to veterans who have been identified by the Wounded Warriors program, and this year we were able to include families of wounded veterans, the Wounded Warriors veterans. Volunteers come together for this project. They transport the donations, they unload them, they count and inventory them, they sort them, they bag them, and then they deliver them. And it's all done by volunteers through Montgomery County and Radford and the New River Valley. This year we delivered over 550 bags, and to me that is quite an annual project for the volunteers through RSVP that come together for that. My association with RSVP has provided me, and I know several volunteers that would say the same thing. It's provided me with friendships that I know will last a lifetime. It's also provided me with a sense of community. And I think that says a lot when you get out and get involved in the community. Most of all, it's provided me, as a senior within the New River Valley, a sense of purpose. And when you get to be a senior and you're retired and you're trying to decide what to do, a sense of purpose is very, very important. So I want to thank you for supporting RSVP, and I want to thank RSVP for supporting the volunteers that work within them. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments on the presentations, board members?
I'm sorry?
No, I was asking the board members if they have any comments on the presentation.
Thank you.
Oh,
No,
Thank
it's
you.
just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
on behalf of the board to Angela, Dina, and you and your staff and volunteers, we really appreciate all that you do to make our area a special place to live.
Well, RSVP, I think, is very, very important to the community, and we need you all as much as you need us. So I think it's a good gift. Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Next presentation will be Fieldstone Housing Development. Mr. William Park and Mr. Jim Cowan will make a presentation to the board tonight.
Mr. Chairman, William Park with Pinnacle Construction, Charlottesville, Virginia. Feels a little bit, as I was driving down here tonight, a little bit like deja vu. I see some familiar faces up here still on the board. As you know, 4 years ago, I was before you all working on the entitlement process that we did for the Highlands and Huckleberry Ridge. 60 acres there where we feel like we're building the highest end luxury apartment complex in this area. Didn't come to talk about that, but just as an update, last winter was very tough on us, but if you all have been by there lately, buildings are springing out of the ground, and feel pretty confident that here in the spring we're going to have people living in there, which is near and dear to our hearts, as I'm sure it is to you all's hearts. So, quick update on that. And one of the things when we came to Montgomery County 4 or 5 years ago, when we started on the process, we did a market study on the area, because obviously we come because there's a need and we try to fill a need. And in looking at the market study, clearly there was a demand for what we're building now over at the Highlands. But it was interesting to note that when we looked at the demographic study that we had, that this area was extremely underserved from an affordable housing component. And at the time, we were so busy with the other project, we needed to get that one going. But, you know, in the back of our minds, we said, well, at some point, we need to see if we're able to serve that demand also. And in doing so, over the last couple of years, we can see why there's such a need in the area, because in my presentation, I'll show you briefly, there's an extreme barrier to entry to the town of Blacksburg and the county of Montgomery. And I think one of the main reasons is the land cost, limited infrastructure, and I'll show you in the presentation, when you look at the area median income of the county and the town compared to the surrounding jurisdictions, you can see why the land cost is what it is. And as you know, that's a major component when you're trying to build affordable housing. So with that, what I came for you tonight is to show you the project that we're working on. We've been working very closely with the town. We go before the town tomorrow night for our rezoning of a portion of the Blacksburg Estates Trailer Park, but also to show the impact that we feel that it's going to have, not just on the town, but on the county, and how we feel that it meets your goals through your comprehensive plan. Craig, that being said, can you give, how do I get this going?
Can one of you guys,
I think
if you double click on that far right,
upper right corner,
yeah,
just
you should have.
there should be a mouse in front of you. If you pull out, there's a keyboard right there.
Perfect.
Yes.
Right.
There you go.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Double click, I guess.
Yeah, double click on that. There you go.
Okay.
There
and
you
then
go.
You can just hit slideshow.
All right. So I just click on it every time.
Up above, there's a thing that says slideshow.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what the young
At the top of it. There,
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Should have had a class in this before I got here. So as I said, the name of our project that we're doing at Blacksburg Trailer Park, understand it's 35-acre trailer park that's in a very desirable location that's been there for a number of years. And to make it clear, I understand there was a rezoning that took place there a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago.
that was going to do something entirely different with it, but we're only taking a portion of the trailer park, which is 11 acres. And I think most of you all are familiar with where the site is located. As you can see, it's on the north side of town along Gibbons Lane. As you know, Gibbons Lane has been updated with new traffic improvements over the last year. What we liked about the site is its proximity to everything in the town and the access along 460 to get anywhere in the county for someone who works anywhere else in the county. Here is the west section of the trailer park. This is the 11 acres that we are currently working on and going through the rezoning process. One thing to note that I think is very important here is we do not want to come to a location to bring affordable housing and to get rid of affordable housing at the same time, okay? So one of the things we worked out with the owners that any of the trailers that are existing on this 11-acre parcel, they are relocating any of these tenants over to the other side of the trailer park. So there is no one's being displaced, if you will, but relocated on the site. The 11-acre parcel, well, let me back up. One of the things that we looked at early on when we did the market study is, well, how can we serve and have the most bang for the buck, have the greatest impact on this area, and who is our target market? Well, it became very clear, and from the presentation I just heard a minute ago, there are a number of seniors that the senior housing is an issue here, and especially affordable senior housing. So what we're working on with the town is really two projects in one. We have a 60-unit senior project, which encompasses these fourplex units, slab-on-grade units. That's our 60 senior residences. And then we have 84 units in these three buildings, which we call family or general occupancy. Now, those 84 units, there is no age limit to that. Anyone can live there, whereas our 60 senior residences, it's 55 and over. Along with that, we're providing a community center with on-site leasing and management, similar to what we're doing over at the Highlands, community gardens, and a fitness center. Also, we have a playground and picnic shelter located in this area. So, when it comes to affordability, what exactly does that mean? And in this case, with the senior units, what we're doing, we're targeting incomes at 40% of the median income, 50%, and 60%. So we've got that segregated in three different levels. And for the workforce housing, what we call the affordable workforce housing, all 84 of those units are targeted for individuals that are below 60% of the area median income. Now that sounds all well and good, but what does that mean with regard to Montgomery County? So I went back and put this chart together, and I think this is a pretty vivid presentation, if you will, on surrounding jurisdictions and what's going on in the county here. First of all, if you look at the median income in the Blacksburg, Montgomery County MSA, which includes Christiansburg and Radford, you'll notice that is $70,900. That's your area median income. And if you go down here and look at surrounding counties, Giles, Pulaski, and Floyd, you're almost 20,000 lower. And so that shows, as I was saying early on, the barrier to entry to this market and why it is so difficult to provide affordable housing here. So what does that mean as far as people living in the area? What does 60% area median income, 50% area median income mean? Well, if you go to the charts that the VHDA uses, if we went over here to a four-person household, that would mean anybody below $42,540 would be eligible to live in the housing. Okay? If you're a three-person household, it's $38,340 and so forth. But that's what it means at 60% of the area median income. So how does that relate to jobs in the county and in the town? So I can't take credit for this, but my assistant back at the office, she says, you know, we want to look at what are some of the jobs in the area and what does that mean? What are the workers at that level? So if you look at it, I mean, we've got the county school system, a teacher, step 7 with a master's degree, salaries $42,365. Administrative assistant, high school custodian, $41,911. Child protective services worker, $40,000. Town of Blacksburg police sergeant makes $42,248, would fall within this. Deputy county clerk, $42,235, and of course, any salaries that are below that, but we use that as kind of a threshold number to give an example of some of the people that would be targeted with this type of housing. And just to be clear, sometimes when we say workforce housing or affordable housing, all of a sudden we hear, well, it's public housing. We get this stigma, if you will, that it's public housing, and certainly public housing probably has its place. But just to be clear with this project, we have no project-based rental assistance here. This is a project where we apply for tax credits. If we get the tax credits and those tax credits are sold to investors, in turn those dollars are put into the project, drives down the debt service that enables us to provide rents that are at this level. So I want to show a few elevations of some conceptual renderings of what we're doing. This is a rendering of the fourplex for the senior units. As you can see, everything's slab on grade, single entry. All 60 of these units are incorporating universal design concepts. This may look familiar. This came before you 4 years ago. This is our Highlands project, and we're building almost exactly the same building, except where we have the 6 garages at the Highlands. We're incorporating 2 units in place of those 6 garages, because a garage product is really not needed over here. But these are the 84 unit family buildings that would be there. And this is a rendering of the community center. And I think it's important, we need a project that's large enough from a management development perspective, not only to provide a significant impact to you all as a locality, but to give us the size that we're able to manage and put on-site management and maintenance people there full-time to manage this. Just a few photos to show what's currently there. I'm sure most of you all are familiar with it. This is along Gibbons Lane, looking back, I guess to the south. This is on the southern side of the property, looking back over the regional stormwater detention basin that the town has there. And then this is on the flip side, looking back to the north on the path. And you can see this area in here is where the 3 family buildings would go. So briefly, one of the reasons I want to chat with you all tonight is to show how this project meets your comprehensive goal plans as far as governmental planning goals, thinking regionally in order to provide public goods, your housing goals from an affordability and quality standpoint, provide incentive for affordable housing. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute and what the town is working with us on. That I think we're pretty close to getting there. The public-private partnerships, we're already working, and Jim will talk about this in a few minutes, how we're working with your IDA as a conduit for some financial incentives. And then promote the use of safe and livable neighborhood designs in residential development. Hence, the senior and affordable complex that we're doing, we're meshing those together, having a community center with amenities on site. Some of the things we're proffering with the town, just to let you all know, one of the things I think is important, not only for the town, but for you all, we are putting a proffer in there that gives a waiting list preference to anybody in the town or the county. So if we have a waiting list with 10 people and they're all from Giles and Floyd County and someone from Montgomery County comes in, they automatically move to the top of the waiting list. So I think that's pretty important to know that what we're building here is we're trying to give first dibs to the people that live in the area. Also, from a sustainability standpoint, this is going to be built with Earthcraft guidelines. I think something very important to note, you hear all the time that something's affordable and all of a sudden you turn around and it's not affordable. Well, what we're doing, the compliance period for a tax credit project is 15 years. That's the mandatory compliance period. We're offering that we're going to keep it affordable for at least 30 years. And that's a deed restriction that we put on the property that runs with the land. And then, of course, when it's completed, just like a Highlands project, we will be the owners and managers of it. So one of the things I want to talk about briefly as I finish up here tonight and let Jim speak is the only way these projects work is we apply for tax credits to the Virginia Housing Development Authority. And in order to do that, it's a very objective process has been set up by VHDA in that we're ranked, our project, against projects not only in a geographic region here, but across the state. Because you can imagine what VHDA is trying to do is to provide the most housing and spread those tax credits to get the most bang for their buck, if you will, okay? And in doing so, they give point scoring to how much a locality supports this, okay? So one of the first ones is readiness, and we have to have zoning, and that's what we're working on with the town, and we're going to go before them tomorrow night. Assuming we get rezoning, that is a very big point category. If we don't get rezoning, then there's no chance of this project going forward, just to let you know. Also, one of the other things that they really stress, and a lot of points are given, are for locality support, real estate incentives, and subsidized funding commitments. Now, I can tell you what we're doing with the town, and hopefully they will support this. All indications are that they feel pretty good about it. As far as the subsidized funding commitments, they're waiving tap fees for the project, or we hope they will waive tap fees. Permit fees also, there's been discussion of that. And also they are going to allow us to use the area where their stormwater basin is located for a quantity standpoint from our water, not quality, but quantity, which is very important, because if we were unable to use that, we would lose one of those 28-unit buildings where the family buildings are located. Also, we're talking with the town, and that's where your IDA has come in, the real estate incentives, where they would fix the current tax rate for 15 years on the property as the taxes or the value that it is today, okay? That they would fix that for 15 years. And where that becomes so important is that's converted into dollars for the tax credit application. And also there's a point category that if real estate abatement is there or real estate incentives are there, that you get more points, which makes it more competitive. Another thing, I'll skip down to number 6, efficient use of resources. You can see that the more resources that we're able to obtain from the locality, the less tax credits we need, and therefore the project scores higher. So not to get down the weeds and bore you with too much detail, but again, these are the areas where the town and county can assist us in bringing this affordable housing to the area. With that being said, I'll let Jim come up and talk a little bit about the technical aspects of it and what he's doing with you all from an IDA perspective. And I'm glad to answer any questions, but again, we appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman, just come forth and tell you what we're doing tonight.
Have any questions before I sit down, or you want to wait until? Okay, come on, Joe.
Members of the board, thank you. Jim Callum on behalf of Bluestone Land. I wanted to very briefly, I guess, talk to you just for a moment about the process of how this works from the county's perspective and what we're doing. As William said, he's given you a great overview of the project. The rezoning request will go before the town tomorrow evening. If it passes, upon approval, they would have their second meeting this month, considering a resolution to provide some of these economic sort of incentives. We're at a little bit of a disadvantage in that some of the tools that you can use to fund, such as community development block grant money or direct cash assistance or tax vouchers and things like that, we don't have here. So we're trying to use the tools we have to get enough points that the HDA will score high enough to give us some credits. And so we put together that package to the town. Some of those things, you have to have a vehicle to do that, and we don't have a housing authority here, either in the county or in the town. So we've been working and talking with the EDA, and it's very similar to what you all do on your economic development projects. And the vehicle that you can use is a performance agreement. And here you'd have a performance agreement between the developer and owner and the county and the town as the sort of co-parties to that. So it's very similar to that. And essentially what we're doing is coming to both municipalities and saying, we understand this environment, you don't have cash to give us to help build affordable housing here and do this. But what we can do is freeze the assessment on the real estate. So as the value of the property, when it's redeveloped, increases, that as long as we're performing and doing all the great things we told you we're going to do, that we get that freeze in that assessment. And essentially, by freezing the value of the property in the assessment, we continue to get the same tax revenue you've gotten with it as a trailer park, which of course is what you get if the project doesn't go forward in all likelihood for some foreseeable time. So in exchange for 15 years of that, you get a 30-year deed restriction that you know you're going to have affordable senior and workforce housing in the area with a preference for the county and town residents. So as that process moves forward, the two things that we're going to come and want to continue a conversation with you about is one, a resolution of support The HDA gives you a big minus in your point score if you don't have support from the localities where you want to do your project, not too surprisingly. And the other is to ask you to participate in that performance agreement. And that will place restrictions on it to work just like your economic development ones. If we build the project and we run it and we place the deed restrictions and we do all the things to limit the rent to stay within those 50, 60, 90, those breakout points for affordable housing to ensure that affordability, then each year we would have the ability, essentially, we would pay our full taxes based on the then current or the higher assessment, but we would get an incentive for maintaining it and developing it and keeping it as senior and affordable housing, that through the EDA, there would be a rebate of the amount above the current, essentially freezing that assessment. And that support really is critical, both from the standpoint of getting the points we need from VHDA to score high enough to get those tax credits that will fund this project in large part, and also, to make the project and those numbers work. So we look forward to continuing that conversation with you. Really appreciate a few minutes. I know you guys have a lot on your agenda tonight, and we wanted to sort of help start walking through that with you, and we appreciate the cooperation through the EDA that we've gotten to date, and we look forward to sort of answering your questions and helping you understand what we're trying to do here for the county residents that can take advantage of that affordable housing. So with that, I certainly answer any questions you have.
Questions?
Just a couple in regards to, you indicated that it looks like you're developing this, what I knew as the old Crickets part of the mobile home park, and moving it over.
Correct.
Who is paying for those owners to be moved over?
Great question. Depending on how they're in the process currently of relocating some units from one side to the other, at the moment, there's about 17 or 20 units that are left on that side. So most of the residents have already on the upper side that's going to be maintained. The owners of the property, as part of this project, are paying the cost to relocate all of the mobile homes that can be relocated, pay for temporary housing while people's homes are being relocated, pay to move their personal belongings, and go through that process for them. And then we're working in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity. There are a couple units that, due to their condition, there could be some challenges in moving. The owners have also agreed to make available some units that may be able to be refurbished that could provide additional housing. So we're trying to work through those. I don't mean to minimize the impact on somebody who's been living somewhere, but this is not a displacement. We have a lot for every single one of those folks, and we're trying very hard to work out a solution. The vast majority, we can just relocate with our cost and go through that. And we have a few folks and that's going to be a little bit more challenging due to the conditions, and we're trying to work with the community. We're also working with a church group that's been very active that runs an after-school program there and has for many years in the trailer home, and they're working with us as well to try and work through some of those situations. So thank you.
Other questions? Did you have a story? Oh, okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this item, depending on the actions of Blacksburg Town Council, we may have this on the agenda as a work session at our next meeting for further discussion.
Okay. Well, that ends our presentations. We'll move on to any action or whatever. I guess we've taken action, work session, and addendum on...
After the public address?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's two addendum items I would like to add.
Right, okay. We enter in our public address session. I have 4 people who have signed up to speak, and we ask that you come to the podium, state your name and address, and direct all your comments to the board, and you have 5 minutes. So the first person signed up is, I think it's Robbie Jones. Or Bobby Jones. Robbie Jones, I guess. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chair, members of the board. I'm Robbie Jones, President of the Montgomery County Education Association. Tonight, I'm here to speak in support of the budget for the school board that will be presented by Ms. Blackburn this evening. As you know, due to unfunded mandates by the government, it's forced everyone to make difficult decisions. The Board of Supervisors, the school board. There was a difficult decision that was made by the school board last week. It was easy for us. but it was difficult for them. They wanted to take an incentive away from our part-time employees, which would cut their salary 20 to 30% a month. And for an example, one person would go from $1,200 to possibly $700 a month income. Also, in the budget tonight, I would like to remind you that it is a needs-based budget. It does include a two-step salary repair that is needed to match the employee's years of experience with their salary. And I'm going to remind you, this is not a raise, it's a repair of our salary scale. Teachers and support staff are asked to do more, and they're not given more. The school board this year, 2014-2015, they're operating on the same budget, if I'm not mistaken, as in 2008. And Ms. Blackburn will, I'm sure she'll explain all that to you, and you probably already know it. But I would like to let you know that as a Montgomery County resident and a school board employee, I support the budget that will be presented tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. John S. Canini? That's Canini? Well, I'm known for turning up names, you know.
I understand.
Yeah.
Good evening, y'all. My name is John Asconi. I live at 512 Craig Street. I'm an instructional aide at Blacksburg High School. And by the way, I noticed on the overheads tonight when I first came in this saying that freedom increases responsibility. I am a veteran of the U.S. Army 101st Airborne Division. And I receive all my medical treatments through the VA in Salem. I received bilateral total hip replacements, surgery in my stomach, and also have had numerous tests and checkups done relatively free. The new hips I received, I couldn't do that before. Okay. The new hips I have received were totally free. All I had to do was pay for maybe some pain medication and a few days in the hospital. And that goes for the stomach as well. My home health care after surgery, my physical therapy, and my advanced physical therapy was paid in total by the VA in Salem. Total cost for these procedures is not even comparable to what it would cost the patient on the outside who wasn't prior military. I say all this because I'm very happy with my medical care that I received through Salem VAMC. What I'm not happy with is having my incentive pay go towards a federal mandate that all should have the ACA. I need my incentive pay. For that matter, I also need my step increases to be unfrozen as well. As a paraprofessional, I've worked in MCPS for 10 years. My wife and I have also endured her salary being cut by $3,000 per year for the last 3 years. If my incentive pay is cut, there will be no way we can survive on such meager pay. And that ends my presentation. I ask that you take that to heart. And I know that I echo the sentiments of many paraprofessionals who could not be here tonight for prior reasons, prior scheduling. And I ask that you please give that some more thought, that we need our pay. And as Robbie said before, that would affect my pay tremendously if my incentive was cut. I thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you.
May you have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker that is signed up tonight is Michelle Broughton.
Hello, my name is Michelle Broughton. I live at 251 Rolling Hills Drive in Christiansburg. I have been an aide at Blacksburg High School for over 10 years. And losing this incentive will not only as a teacher aide, but also as a parent. Because my son has an 8 4 out of the 5 classes at Blacksburg High School. And why should my son suffer and other students as well? Outside of our integrity, parents expect high-quality assistance for their children, especially when they have special needs. How can you expect quality aids when their pay is reduced to poverty level? I ask tonight that you support the new school budget on behalf of the aides, cafeterias, and bus drivers. And also, I would like to know if anyone can live on $900 a month. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker that is signed up is Ursula Halvaretti. Hope I got that right. If not, fix it for me.
Good evening, Board of Supervisor members. My name is Ursula Halferty.
Okay.
And I live at 4409 Pearman Drive in Preston Forest. I just want to say that I'm sorry I couldn't be here last week when we had that wonderful presentation from Mr. Tuck, but I just want to say that I was glad I had the opportunity to watch it online. I was also glad to hear that all the County Board of Supervisor members do not support the pipeline coming through. Although I'm a resident of Preston Forest, I just want to say though I'm a little bit disheartened about some of the conversation that was going on, because it's not just about a pipeline through Preston Forest. There's Rush Mountain Estates, the Mount Tabor area, Lafette and Elliston, which will all be affected by the pipeline as well. We're citizens from all over the county that are monitoring this pipeline. We're the eyes and ears out there along with you to watch what's going on. I just want you to know that there's more than just Preston Forest, because that's not really true. I mean, it comes right through and it affects us the most, but just remember all of our citizens. According to FERC, as was stated in Mr. Tuck's presentation, FERC will not come up with an alternate route. The stakeholders have to. And FERC has a deadline to approve new applications after they're formally submitted. For 1 year, they have 1 year to approve that. But we have to remember that this process right now is only a pre-filing. This pipeline is not a reality. And it's our goal to make sure that this process is so tedious and unfruitful for them that this pipeline is going to go away. I mean, we need to be the David. It was a great presentation. I really liked it. I watched it several times. But I want to say that I do not approve of the County Board of Supervisors working with the MVP people. Okay? A, we don't know who they are. One day they're EQT. Next day they're Nextera. One day they're Mountain Pipeline. They don't even know who they are. They put on different faces to suit themselves. Who are you going to negotiate with if you're going to create a greenway? A greenway along a pipeline? Come on, be serious. The pipeline operator is ultimately going to be EQM or Equitrans Midstream. That's another entity. They don't even mention them at this point. But they're not going to want people to walk on their easements. They're not going to want people with horses going across there. And I thought about it. How are we going to market this Montgomery County Greenway? For thrill seekers? People who want to breathe in toxic chemicals to get Parkinson's disease or cancers? Do we want to say, hey, you want to be the first one to be walking along the pipeline when it blows up? I mean, there is no benefit to us to negotiate with them. It's a great concept, looks pretty in the pictures, There's a difference between a distribution gas line that runs to homes, low pressure and all that. That's not what we're talking about here. There's no negotiating with them. And I understand the county has issues with budget and money, and you guys are watching out for that, and we appreciate that. But please, do not be tempted to be lured by the ad valorem taxes that they're promising you. Because as we know, in other counties, EQT has sued to get their money back. So that's just a pipe dream. They're just holding that out in front of you, but that's not going to benefit the county. And again, as Mr. Tuck said, it's going to cost us a lot more in the long run than we're going to get out of it. So I am just urging you not to negotiate with them on that point. Let's make this go away. The economy has changed. The dollar is stronger in Europe. The pipeline has no benefit for us. The gas price has gone down. I mean, this whole thing should just go away. We don't want to waste our time negotiating with them. Now, we don't want to push it on our neighbors either. So anything you can do to help us just make this go away, fight it, put taxes in place for our county that will make it cost more for them to be here. That's what I'm asking you to do. And I brought you some buttons if you'd like to wear them and just be part of our fight. And I do appreciate your time and listening to us. And we'll be here again. And I hope they do come out next week and share some positive information with us. We want to hear what they have to say. Thanks a lot for your time.
If you can leave the buttons for Vicki. Yeah.
And Ms. Halverty, you mentioned next week it'll actually be 2 weeks.
23rd,
It's
right?
23rd,
I'm
2
over
weeks.
anxious. I can't
That's
wait to
okay.
see it.
We are too. That completes the 4 people who have signed up to speak. But if anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board at this time, who have not had the opportunity to sign up, they may do so at this time. Seeing no one coming forward, we will close the public hearing. Any action on public comments? No public address? Okay. We'll move on to the addendum.
Mr. Chair, we do have 2 addendums to consider this evening. One is actually already in as a tab for this evening, and that relates, and I've got a hard copy as well, that relates to naming of the bridge over the New River. I know Supervisor Tuck had some information on that as well. And the second, and what I'm passing out is what's in your tab as well. The second one is the request that came from Dave Clark at VDOT regarding adding Sydney Church Road under the Rural Rustic Road Program for VDOT. So those are the 2 items that I'm aware of that would need to be added under addendum.
Okay. I'll take them up under new business or now? New business?
New business?
Yeah, we're moving to new business. Okay.
Would you like a motion to add those 2 items?
Yeah, motion to
I would
add
so
those
move
2
to add
items.
those 2 items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Abstain.
Mr. Creed?
Abstain.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
Have 5 ayes, 2 abstain.
Okay, the next item is our consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. Yeah.
Or
Have a motion and a second to approve our consent agenda. Is there any discussion on any of the items? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is end of work session. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into work session for the purpose of discussing the following. 1, Montgomery County School Budget FY16 Budget Presentation.
So moved. Do you need a motion?
No, motion to go into work session and a second.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Chair?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Meadows, thank you for allowing me to speak to you on behalf of the school board tonight. I want to thank you again for your continued support of Montgomery County Public Schools, and again, I want to thank you for providing the funds that we needed to open up a new middle school out in the Auburn area, Reiner area, and for attending the dedication for those of you who were able to make it. We are in attendance tonight for the first phase of the budget season. And as in years past, it's going to be a tough season for both of our boards. Thank you for continuing to step up to the plate and making fiscal provision for the school board. In just a few moments, Mrs. Blackburn will be presenting a needs-based budget. I will let her give you the detail on that, but as you already know and have heard tonight, we have a shortage regarding our personnel, more specifically our part-time folks. I truly hope that between the two boards, we will be able to come to a resolution that is good for our employees, provides quality education for Montgomery County, and ultimately is affordable. And lastly, I just want to thank you for making the relationship with the school board a priority by establishing the schedule of our joint meetings for 2015. We, as the two boards, have a unique functional relationship that a lot of areas don't share, and I want to thank you for that. I'm personally grateful that we are not at each other's throats and that we can work together in trying to solve the issues before us. With that said, I look forward to working with you guys, and I now turn it over to Mrs. Blackburn.
I'm going to take my time. I'm going to walk. How about that?
No scooter. I figured the law might have confiscated the scooter for you speeding on it.
They probably did. I'm getting better and better at it. But anyway, I've got my foot on the ground and it feels good, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here with you this evening. Rob, you did a great job of starting off with some of our concerns. I appreciate the NCEA and the good working relationship that we have with them as well. And a couple of our teacher assistants, instructional assistants shared with you one of the issues that we have that we're facing this year. I keep waiting for the year that I come here and we already have enough money. So I don't know if I'm going to make it or not, but I keep hoping. You know, you have stepped up to the plate to do so many things for us. You have stepped up to the plate to offset the loss of state funds, and I don't need to tell you we're still $7 million behind from 2008. You stepped up to the plate to fill some of the gap when we lost the stimulus money that was artificially pumped into education and other government entities to keep us afloat, and you helped fill that gap. And you made some very tough decisions that would bring some state-of-the-art learning facilities to Montgomery County Public Schools in a time of economic uncertainty. So I know your advocacy for public education. I've had an opportunity to see it and to live through some of the really tough discussions that we had to get to some of those decisions. I also really appreciate the fact that you regularly return the carryover funds to the school division to meet the other unfunded or unmet needs of the school district. There are many counties that do not have that kind of positive relationship going, as Mr. Lyons alluded to. Our work and your support allow us to provide for the highly individualized needs of 9,600 Montgomery County children that are served in our classrooms each and every day. The budget before you this evening is, as represented, a needs-based budget. It is a budget that is presented to you after significant input from many sources, from our division leadership, from staff members, from the community, and from the school board. We've had our website up and open to the public since early in September, and people have not been shy about sharing their feelings. Most recently, all of our schools and all of our departments held meetings with employees in their locations and I got about this many pages of additional ideas and suggestions and statements about where Montgomery County Public Schools should be going at this point in time. So this is not a budget that was created in isolation. Next week, I'm going to also begin a listening tour that will take me to each of our 4 high schools from 2 to 5 in the afternoon to specifically afford our employees an opportunity to speak with me directly, not only about the budget, but about other topics of interest. Budget updates, as you know, are a regular part of the Montgomery County Public Schools Board agenda and a major focus of our website. It is our intent to provide budget information that is easy to understand and quickly accessible to the public. Right now, our total increase in state funds for 2015-2016 is $277,678. The majority of that is categorical for the e-learning backpack program, $213,000 of the 277. So if you take the 213 off the 277, you can see that there's about a $60,000 increase actually in our funds from the state. As the legislature continues to meet and as you all analyze the county's financial picture, the information necessary to make real decisions about the Montgomery County Public Schools budget becomes clearer. I call the current round of budget discussions round 1 of the budget process. In fact, in some ways, the tougher rounds of the budget discussion are yet to come. As presented to you tonight, the gap between the 2014-2015 adopted budget and the 2015-2016 request is $4.8 million. The number is offset by a number of things. The additional state money of $277,000 that I just spoke to you about, and 2 changes in accounting procedures that are being instituted by Montgomery County Public Schools that move 2 revenue sources that have been dealt with in the past as supplemental revenue to regular revenue. And those 2 revenue sources are, or accounting changes, involve the child care program, about $300,000, and the E-rate reimbursement that we get from the federal government for about $300,000. So those 2 revenue streams have become so stable that we felt that this was the right time to just go ahead and move them into the budgeting process instead of dealing with them from the supplemental process. So that accounts for the offset to the $4.8 million. So the gap that we're actually asking the supervisors to consider closing is $3.9 million. You have a budget book. You either have an electronic copy or a hard copy, or you may have both. And a lot of the detail of what I'll talk about this evening is in your budget book. And so I'll just give you highlights and hopefully have an opportunity to answer some questions that you may have of me. One of the things that we started with this year was efforts to find economies. And these efforts have been ongoing for the past 5 years. We continue to ask our division staff to do more with less as positions have been reduced. And today I decided to look back again just to refresh my memory about how many positions have been reduced. In the time period of 5 years that I've been coming to the podium, we've reduced 89.82 positions from the school district budget. That's a $5 million price tag. Those were real people who had real jobs who spent that $5 million in Montgomery County. We've reduced supply budgets. We've made operational changes, some that were not popular. In fact, many that were not popular. We've been constantly focused on striving to provide a high-quality education in our schools, despite the economic impediments that we faced. This year, we have, in our search for economies, we've done several things. Number 1, we've added salary turnover and lapse back into the budget to be reprioritized for expenditures. This is the first time since 2010 that there's been enough significant evidence to support the fact that we should do this. Last year, we had increased turnover during the summertime, and of the approximately 85 positions that were filled, 60 of them were filled with people who would come in on tier 0 to 5 on our salary scale. They replaced very experienced educators who were generally at the top of the scale. It netted a cost savings of $818,000. If you accompany that with the lapse, the time period that positions may be vacant or be filled by either long-term subs or substitute employees, or just absolutely sit vacant for lack of the right employee to figure them, we believe that we can return $1.4 million to the budget for labor, and that is largely the result of the $818,000 and a few other things. So that money has been respent in the current budget that's before you. This year we also added the VRF savings that have been identified by the state. That's about $173,000. And we also have seen some real success from a different postal system that we have been using, and we're going to reduce our postal costs by another $15,800. So those were the economies. I wish I could have found more, but I think that when you look at the $5 million price tag and the 89 positions that are vacant, you understand why it's so difficult to find those economies. We focused on protecting enhancements that are supporting student achievement gains. The things that we've been doing, like investing in materials and instructional supports, like the instructional coaches, like the Read 180, like the Math 180, like continuing reading recovery, which is one of the most expensive, but yet one of the most productive early childhood reading gap closure programs that you can possibly find, because we are moving in the right direction. The data is there to show it, and we do not want to abandon those things that we believe are helping us move forward. We want to implement a second year of the e-learning backpack program at the 4 high schools. The tablets for the current 9th grade students were distributed over the last 3 weeks, and there was a tremendous amount of excitement both on the part of the students and on the part of the staff members who were engaged with those students. We want to provide that 2-step salary scale enhancement to our employees. The cost of it is $2.1 million. It's the year 2 of our Evergreen study. We were fortunate enough with your assistance to be able to implement the first 2 parts of the Evergreen study last year. The legislature may ultimately help with some salary improvement dollars based on their most recent discussion. But attracting and retaining the best employees for our school system has to be a priority. We want to address the unfunded mandate of the Affordable Health Care Act provision to provide health insurance for our 30 to 39.99-hour part-time employees. The cost to do this is $1.4 million. And as you may be aware, the Affordable Health Care Act provisions have unfolded gradually, and for 3 years it's been delayed, but this time it appears fairly imminent that it may actually come to pass starting October 15th for Montgomery County Public Schools and other school systems and other businesses that employ part-time employees. We had been budgeting for the last 3 years $230,000 just as a Band-Aid in case the federal government came to us with some implementing procedures that we could start putting into place. It didn't happen. But when they finally did tell us what we had to have exactly the same plan that we offer our full-time employees. The cost to the employer for Montgomery County Public Schools individual employee insurance is $7,800. I have about 260 part-time employees who will be eligible for that health insurance package under the Affordable Health Care Act at $7,800 each in the operating budget. And then I have an additional 34 in the school nutrition budget. And if you're familiar with the school nutrition budget, the school nutrition program is self-sustaining. And so when we pass along a $265,000 increase in cost to cover insurance to the school food and nutrition program, then they have to do one of two things or both things. They have to sell more, and they have to pass the cost on to the consumer, which in this case is to our children and their families. We also have to cover an estimated increase in the health insurance cost of our current employees. It was initially estimated at about a 10% increase or $800,000. As we've been negotiating with Anthem, we're at $777,000 increase to provide the current plan to the current employees. Another increase. We tried to restore some previous budget and personnel reductions and move some items from carryover funding that we have found to be worthwhile to operations. Each recurring cost that is funded through carryover is a strategic decision. The thought process is that we are better off with having the resource for 1 year only than we are not to have the resource at all. Some of these things include the social worker that we budgeted for last year, specifically to work in our eastern Montgomery strand, where our poverty rate is the highest of the entire county, with 3 schools, a middle, a high, and an elementary school, all hovering right around 60% plus free reduced lunch. Some other things that we're trying to move over, the college application week. It was one of the most amazing successes that I've had an opportunity to be a part of. And it touched every kid. It didn't touch just our kids who live in poverty, but it touched the kids in the middle, the kids at the top, and provided some real motivation for them to think about where they were going and what they were doing after college. And it was so successful that I'd like to see it become a part of our regular budget. The capital, including the roofs, the budgets, and the technology that we had been fortunate enough that you could fund for the previous 2 years, were funded last year from our carryover money. Of the $1.8 million in carryover funds that we had from 2013-2014, significantly less than 10% was used for actual recurring expenses. We included again this year some safety enhancements. We've been very, very fortunate with our grants for the school, for the state safety dollars. The first year we received $60,000. The second year we received $100,000. They require a 25% match, so we've included a $25,000 line item to match again the state grant cycle, which just came out. We incorporated some changes in accounting processes, which I just mentioned to you, the child care and the E-rate. And we have provided a more detailed view of the budget. When you look at it now, for example, when you see labor, you see the personnel in one part, and then on the next line you see, or in the next section, you see the cost of benefits for the labor. So you're seeing a little bit more detail about how the expenditures occur. As you consider the school budget request and the big decisions before you about our citizens, about the advertised tax rate, about the community priorities, I ask you to include these facts in your considerations. State funding for education of Montgomery County Public Schools is $7 million below the level of 2008. State of Virginia per student spending remains below the level of 2008 and is growing very, very slowly. To meet the buying power of the $97 million budget that we had in 2008 would require a budget of $108 million in 2015. I don't have $108 million. I don't have $101 million. I have the 2008 $97 million. Attracting and retaining a quality workforce, teachers and support employees, requires a competitive salary schedule and competitive benefits. Currently, our starting salary for teachers ranks 11th of the 13 surrounding counties. Our mid-scale teachers ranked 5th of the same 13, and our top of the scale teachers ranked 5th of the same 13 surrounding counties. Finally, I would say that great communities and great schools go hand in hand, and I know that you've stepped up to the plate to keep us moving in the direction of a great school system to meet the needs and the vastly varying needs of our 9,600 students in Montgomery County schools. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I also am more than happy to answer questions that you may have. I didn't speak about the part-time incentive because at the point that our board made decisions last Tuesday evening, the part-time incentive money, which is about $563,000, was restored to the budget that's before you tonight. And so it is included in the funding that we're asking for. Any questions that you may have?
Questions?
Yeah, this is more of a, do you have a copy of your presentation that
I have
that we can get copies of or whatever?
I have my notes and I'll be happy to send them to you all.
No questions?
I figured I'd go last. I might.
I just got one statement.
Okay.
I hope the school board and you yourself understand the most precious thing you have in that school is your employees. I'm very sad that they incentives was put on the block first. I mean, I really can't understand if you. I apologize. I'm very emotional about this. You have some of them that's worked there for 20, 30 years. And I would hate for them to be put on the block, take their incentives away from them. I've talked to several of them. And like the last speaker said, down to $700 a month. The children in these schools see them every day, the bus drivers. I mean, they got the biggest responsibility there is. Taking them to school, taking them back home in all this kind of inclement weather. And $97 million, and that's not including what you come back and ask for during the year. I just hope you can find somewhere else to cut the budget besides on your employees' backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. I appreciate
Can I
that.
address something like that?
Yes, yes.
I hear you, and it is the purpose of the board, and the plan of the board is, and the priority of the board is our personnel. We get that. The other thing I want everyone to understand as well, as you'll see in this budget, 88% of our budget is spent on personnel. That means we operate the entire school division really on 12% of all the other things. And unfortunately, sometimes the simple math is 88% is where you have to make cuts. I hate it. I don't want to do it. But it is one of those things that as I look at it and I try to make sense of it all, 88% of our budget being in one line is a huge number. And that's where we have to do some things sometimes. So I just want everyone to understand that that's where it is our dilemma. Our most important priority is our people, and we want to keep the incentive, but 88% of your budget is 88% of your budget.
I would tell you that each and every individual makes a very special contribution. The 89 employees that we no longer have made a very, very valuable contribution to Montgomery County Public Schools. The recommendation was mine. I take full responsibility for it, that I took it to the board because one of the things I'm supposed to do is bring options to the board. I'll be happy to talk with you about the nights I tossed and turned as I wrangled over that decision, and also be happy to talk with you about the rationale that was part of my thinking as I made it. I'm very glad the board did not support that recommendation, and I hope that we don't go back to having to deal with that recommendation. But it had to be put out in front of the people who make decisions because of how part-time benefits evolved. Part-time incentives started out as an alternative to health insurance and retirement plans for our 20 to 40-hour employees. But it started out 15 years ago. When it was initially implemented, the employees could identify a retirement plan, or they could identify a health insurance plan, and then Montgomery County Public Schools paid the stipend or the incentive for that. As time wore on, it got to be more and more complex to do that. And so the part-time incentive was rolled directly into the employee's check, always with the initial intent that it was to allow the employee to use the funds for retirement planning or insurance, but it became income. And I truly understand how it became income for many of our employees. So I assure you that it was not a decision or a recommendation made lightly, or not one that was not made without a great deal of pain.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, a few things. I know both of you have very difficult jobs. It is not easy. But a few things in regards to the budget, and I guess obviously it was in the paper. I was critical of using one-time money to hire individuals and knowing that you're going to have to fire them, or you're going to have to come back to us to ask for more money to be able to support that. And I know what you said, well, let's use the money for the one time, but you've also shown us that you have a lot of maintenance needs. And instead of using that one-time money to address those maintenance needs, that's a lot of my concerns, because you're doing reoccurring costs with those monies. And also at the same time, when you start looking at $3.9 million, you're looking at a 5.5-cent tax increase just to cover what you're talking about, which is a huge tax increase. And that is not something that I'll tell you I can support. As far as we're looking at revenue growth and hopefully for the reassessments around 1.9, but we're not certain with those funds. But to look at that kind of target, then on the county side, while we're only about 29% of the budget, because by the time you put debt service in on the schools, that's about another 11%. We, when I got here, had eliminated 36 employees. I know that we brought several back or created new positions, but that's something that we've had to deal with after the economy collapsed. And so that's some of the hard decisions that our staff has had to make, and they're not easy. But as far as, I understand there's a needs-based budget, but sometimes you've got to look at that rollover money and you've got to address some of the maintenance needs that are coming up. And that's where some of my concerns are.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Am I right in seeing in here that there was budgeted, the capital expenditures of $250,000 for the roof and maintenance plan? Is that included in the budget request here?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I'm curious, like, because we all know about, and there's an article in the paper about the Cardinal Tech study, and we've talked about that quite a bit, you know, $2.3 million. How do you, what was your process in arriving at that $250,000? Because that's not really what you need, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, in the realm of standing in front of you and asking for $3.9 million, I figured that's how much of it I could dedicate to the capital issues that we've been facing, and that's what we've been living with and within for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I went right back to the same numbers, except I did increase the number for buses from 250 to 350 because of actually from a little bit less than 250 to 350 because of some of the issues that we're having with an aging fleet, because we've not been able to routinely replace them. So I put the technology money, the roof money that we have been getting, and a little bit more money for buses than we have been asking for, and they're up about $150,000 above previous requests.
Okay.
And then there's a $200,000 line item for capital maintenance that's always in there, and that's Dan Baronato's budget to do small capital projects. I can come and ask you for 5.9 as good as I can ask you for 3.9. But You know, if you look at me and say, where's your capital budget? I don't have anywhere to go get a capital budget because there's 88% of my money in people, and I'm a people business. My job is kids and teachers.
But just so I'm understanding you, that when it comes to the capital needs, especially the ongoing maintenance, this is not a needs-based presentation. This is
not uncapital.
This is a realistic what you think
I might get
you might get.
somewhere.
Okay.
I need $2 million a year to do what I would call a high-quality capital preventive maintenance program for Montgomery County Public Schools facilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll ask the question or two. One, there's some talk in the General Assembly about teacher raises and state employee raises and things. And, I mean, when I was reading over some of that, I guess probably today or day or so, and I recall some raises maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago where they were only for, I think it's SOQ.
SOQ position.
Yeah, and that's a small part of our total workforce. And then in order for all the employees to get a raise, the board had to step up to the plate to make up the difference. I wonder with these raises, I mean, when we as citizens look at the governor make his presentation, I've included money for teacher raises. And the light goes on that every teacher is going to get a raise. But that's not true. And so would these raises come in that form? Do you know?
Most likely.
They come in that form, so the board would be probably asked to make up the difference of that money, and I think we made up more money than the state gave. I think that was about the only one that I had right here at this time. But we'll appreciate your presentation, and we, the board, we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We always appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Nita, I guess we don't need to take any action on that, so I just need a motion to go out of work session.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to go out of work session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Creed? Aye. Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We want to take up those two addendum items at the end of
That'd be fine.
these. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. New business, subject A, Economic Development Authority lease revenue bond 2005 refunding.
Move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Mr. Chair, I would like to just add to that the refunding that you've just approved should save the county about $193,000 a year. So we appreciate staff's work on that, and also Davenport and Company that assisted us with the bids for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could we take a 5-minute recess?
Since it's you, we'll take 6 minutes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Tuck, we said 6 minutes, you took 7.
I was up there.
Okay, we'll move on. Subject B, I believe, is where we are. Support agreement EDA loan for Torque.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel? Mr. Creed?
I didn't hear what it was, I'm sorry.
It's
B.
Subject B, support for Torque. Let me go back to the top and read it. You got it right there?
No, for some reason.
It's under tab E.
Yeah, support agreement EDA loan for Torque.
Yeah.
Todd will get it. Understand?
It gets stuck and it won't go on. So,
You can tell when we get over 60, it's difficult for us to.
He's stuck on, his is stuck on January.
You guys cheer. That sounds like school. You guys cheer. Okay.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And even though that passed, we do have, the nice thing about that is the additional mortgage is covered with additional rent from tort because of the upfit, so
Great.
we're good.
Okay.
You want to do the Sydney Church Road?
We'll do that VDOT request resolution first.
It was a request from the district engineer to add Sydney Church Road to the rural rustic roads.
Do you want to do that one?
Are you okay? You okay with the
that?
motion for
Do
that?
you want to, do you want to move it since it's
For Sydney Church Road to be added to the rural rustic roads?
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gates?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item would be naming the bridge on I-81 in Montgomery County and Pulaski counties as Trooper Andrew Fox Memorial Bridge.
Mr. Chairman, I had the opportunity to start exploring who Mr. Trooper Fox was.
We need a motion first.
Oh, I was just going to discuss it, I guess.
No, need a motion.
Also move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, and we're open for discussion.
As I was saying, thank you, Matt. I had the opportunity to look into who Trooper Fox was. He did undercover work on behalf of the state police and on behalf of Montgomery County citizens here in Montgomery County. He was a graduate of Virginia Tech and an avid Hokie fan. He was assigned, as many troopers are when you have events throughout the state, they get assigned, even though he was from Pulaski, assigned to Pulaski, he was assigned to go down to the Virginia State Fair and was operating traffic when he was killed. His wife, Jenny, still lives in the area and goes across this bridge on a daily basis. I spoke with a trooper who had spoken directly with her, and this is something that she wants and she would ask for, as well as she says this is something that his family would want. This is a trooper who was serving us and died in the line of duty. And so, in also exploring this, it appears that every other locality is paying for these signs, and I want to follow in line, and this is something I believe is important for Montgomery County to pick up the tab, just like every other locality is. Because it's an important thing to honor those who are willing to give the ultimate sacrifice for us.
Appreciate those words, Mr. Tuck. Any other comments of discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem supporting the resolution. In fact, I talked to a state trooper earlier that had left a message, and I don't think any of us had a problem supporting a resolution. We didn't know that we actually needed a resolution until we got to Richmond, and we found out we did need a resolution. And then in talking to Delegate Rush, we found out that the localities were asked to pay for the signs back in the 1990s. And I think what might be a helpful suggestion maybe in the future would be to look at perhaps having the state, take over the responsibility, like if they would like to name a sign, they pay for a sign, and the localities, if they want to name a sign, they pay for the sign. But I have no trouble supporting the resolution, and I think it is an honor, and I don't think at any time did anyone not support honoring a trooper. But we did not know we needed a resolution until we actually went to Richmond last week.
Yeah, I'll say just a couple words, and that is that I do not think that supporting someone is anything except something you should do. But I do not at all like the fact that some of our legislators that are a little higher than us can have something done, such as a sign or whatever it may be, and then say, oh, by the way, Montgomery County's gonna pay for it. And to that extent, I don't like that whatsoever. Being as the fact that I know we're gonna have 6 votes for it, I intend not to vote for it just for that reason. And perhaps we'll send 2 words. One, that we will pay for something, and the other is that they don't need to be making our decisions on what we will and will not pay. Excuse me.
I'm not going to vote for it either, not because I absolutely support naming this bridge, but not only am I troubled by the state forcing another unfunded request onto the localities, which, okay, they do that all the time. We're used to that. But the way that the county and its delegates were treated when they went to Richmond by our state representatives, when a simple phone call to us asking us to do this would have solved all of these problems.
Right.
And so in the future, I hope that these communications, it's not like we're on some distant planet that they can't reach us by email or by phone or something like that. We have legislative dinners with them all the time. I hope that this will improve lines of communication in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to tell Mr. Gabriel that I did bring up that with Delegate Rush, that we needed to have that direct phone call made, if that helps any.
I'll make a comment or two, and this comes from a trooper, and it says, Andrew was a type of trooper or friend who always wanted to help. Boundary lines did not matter to him, and when you start talking about boundary lines, it's jurisdictional lines in which they have it all over the state. If there was a person in need of help, he was willing to be there and assist them with a smile. And, you know, when you sit and think about these words, I realize and what Supervisor Creed said and everything. And some ways I feel it away, but I'm going to support the resolution because the memory of Trooper Fox is what we're talking about. And I'm not going to diminish that memory because I don't like the way it was done, or we didn't get the appropriate communications from our people. And we made it pretty clear when we were in Richmond, when we talked to Delegate Rush, saying that, hey, you know, we heard from somebody else somewhere. All you had to do was pick up the telephone and give us a call, fill us in a little bit, and we'd have been more than happy. We would have passed this long ago. But if that's all the discussion, then I can ask the clerk to please call the roll, because we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Abstain.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Abstain.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 abstain.
Well, we move to the county attorney's report.
Bees, yes, sir. If you look in your Dropbox items, there's under tab F, the board received a petition from the New River Valley Beekeepers Association asking the board to consider amending the county zoning ordinance to allow beekeeping in residential zones in the county. Currently, the only place in the county that someone can raise bees and beehives would be in the agricultural zone. And you know, this issue came up, I can't remember the lady's name, it came up with a lady who had beehives in a
Rachel Kennedy, I think, if I recall.
Yeah, the zoning administrator made her move those out because they're not permitted. And so we received this request, and I guess we're just looking for some guidance on how you wanted to handle this. If you had no interest, then we would reply to her that there isn't any interest at this point. If you wanted to study it, we could then pass it to the planning commission, and let them look at it, come up with some type of proposal or not. So it's up to you.
Okay.
If we do put it to the planning commission, I would like a lot of input from what you guys are looking for so I can explain that to the planning commission as to if there's any kind of guidance that you want me to be able to convey to them.
Can I just ask clarification? What are the current requirements or zoning requirements for beekeeping in the towns right now?
I'm not sure there is any bee. Well, I'm not for sure, but the Beehive people, they sent us a ordinance that's currently in effect in Roanoke. And what they have is they have limitation on hives. They have some setback stuff, stuff like that, where you can't be close to a house or a residential boundary line or things like that.
Because I know people in Blacksburg who, at least I think, have hives. They've told me they have hives. So, is there a way to find that information out?
I can check that. Yeah, sure. And whatever you want to do, we would plan to bring back at the next meeting if you wanted to do anything. I'm not asking you to do anything that
I think it's fine to send it to the planning commission. I'd like to know what the towns say, and if they allow it in residential, then.
Sure. You want to know what maybe towns, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Radford, city of Radford.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's a good sample up there.
And we asked if they ever had any problems with it. Like, I guess, one of the concerns that was brought up is like if you have them in a residential area, like, what happens if they go in the neighbors, someone gets stung, pet gets stung, I don't know. But have they ever had any problems?
How do you tell?
I believe the potential for with Miss Kennedy's bees were they were close to a family who were allergic to bees, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the issue. And I don't think any family, I don't think any of the people got stung, but they knew that they were allergic to bee stings. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to make a little statement on that as far as the bees. If we do away with all the bees,
no pollination.
Right.
You better figure out what you're going to eat. Because everything that they pollinate is what we eat right now. And so, your apples, your pears, anything that you put in the garden that's got a bloom on it, the bee is going to get it the first thing. And we better be trying to figure out ways that we can get more bees rather than less bees, because it's getting to be a dying breed of things that we raise on country farms. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have bees brought in from one state to another state just to self-pollinate whatever it is that they're growing. So if we want to get our food chain that we don't eat, go ahead.
It's they have bees in the tomato place up here to inside inside growing thing to pollinate the tomatoes.
The ones they have up there are bumblebees. They use a little smaller bumblebee. They don't use the honeybees because the honeybees, they said, were more aggressive than what the bumblebee was.
Well, that's interesting.
I've been through it. And if you ever get the opportunity to go into it, if you've never been, you need to go. It'll blow your mind.
Okay, what's the consensus of, is it the consensus of the group that
let's find out about it.
Send to the planning commission?
Planning commission, find out what the surrounding communities are doing.
So how about the next board meeting, we'll have a resolution prepared, and you guys will send
for it.
Okay.
Good job.
I might add one thing. These bees will they'll probably never see them come to their house if it's around back. They'll go somewhere in a direct line as a general thing. They might be a mile away, but they can get there quick. And it's just honeybees is a real good thing. Them big wood-borne bees, I like to play tennis with them.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
When Miss Kennedy finds out about it, you're going to have somebody come to visit you, Mr.
Oh, dear.
County Administrator's Report.
Well, usually I use all the county attorney's time, but tonight he used all of mine, so I have no report.
Can't believe that. I'm not marking it down. Supervisor Perkins.
Well, I'm not going to say very much about a meeting in Richmond as a lobbyist. I will leave that to our chair and vice chair. All I can say is it was very interesting and
say that again.
it took a while to get to see all of these people that represent us. I'm eager to have them come back after the assembly and let's see where we are. The only other thing I have to say, and I was going to say this when we had the school budget, but after serving 7 years on the school board, 2 years as chair, and now starting my, 18th year on the Board of Supervisors, I hope I live long enough to see the day when we will be able to fund the school board budget to the extent of a needs-based budget. I've never had that in all these years. So 18 and 7 is what, 25? However, the budget that we do have now provides so much more for our schools than they did a long time ago. And you tell them getting old, because when you're old, you start talking about the past, you know. But no, that's all I have to say is that I hope someday, some way, we can fund the budget the way it should be. And also for the county, if that, if we can do that. I won't say it will never happen because that's a very negative approach. I'm just saying I want to live a long time so I can see it happen. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Tuck.
I'm not on here twice like it was last meeting. I'm just one time.
Well, you probably don't have much to say this meeting.
Well, I'll try to be brief. In the papers, TVs, you're seeing all these folks who are not wanting to vaccinate their children. In my mind, that is simply silly and irresponsible. When you look at today's paper and it talks about German measles, the last year that was in place, 2,000 babies in the United States died. The last year, regular measles were still out there. 425 people died. I don't know whether it's just time, people have forgotten that people died. Polio, they shut down Withville at one point in time because it got so bad. And so at some point in time, I wouldn't mind it if, I know we passed a lot of resolutions saying simply that vaccinate your kids. I have a friend who's got a niece and she comes up to visit. Her name's Victoria Waters. She's had a heart transplant. She can't take any live vaccines because she's on anti-rejection drugs. If somebody gets the measles around her, she could die. She's counting on the rest of us who can take that vaccine. The risks are minute, and so I would encourage everyone to vaccinate their children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gabriel.
I have no report.
Mr. Creed. Mr. King.
I just got two things I want to tell Greg and Miss Carol how much I appreciate what y'all do for me and help me out. When I call, I know Craig said, "Oh God, him again."
No, Carol says that.
She won't answer the phone. And I appreciate the staff that we have here from Montgomery County. They really work hard, and I appreciate that. And I got one big news for the board. I'm a pawpaw now.
Congratulations.
Born Friday, 8 pounds, 6 ounces.
We'll be
Oh, my
expecting a
goodness.
picture soon.
I don't have a camera.
Wow.
You got an iPad.
Wow.
Okay, Supervisor Biggs.
Okay, I just want to tell you that I'm going to forward you all a resolution that Craig got a copy of from the town of Christiansburg. It's a resolution they passed in October of last year, supporting the efforts of the organization that you all probably are familiar with called One Virginia 2021, and it's Virginians for Fair Redistricting and for legislative districts. And as you know, the League of Women Voters, the same night we were having a board meeting, had a forum on it. And Jim Schuler's been very active in it. Dave Nutter, I got to touch base with him in Richmond. And so Craig was able to get a copy of the town of Christiansburg resolution they passed. And Jim Schuler had contacted me wanting to know if we could, pass a resolution. So I thought I'd send that one along and then give you all a chance to look at it, and then maybe we could put it on the next agenda. Now, as far as lobbying, as you all know, I have a very hard head, and it was put to the test at lobby time, obviously. But before that happened, we were able to touch base with and actually sit down with John Edwards and with Ralph Smith. We were able to talk to Joseph Yost sort of in the hallway because he had a lot of meetings, and we were able to talk to Nick Rush down outside the Senate Finance Committee and the House Appropriations Committee. They were both meeting late Thursday, and so actually got to see a lot of people come out of there that aren't just our representatives but other representatives. And when you go to Richmond, you lobby everybody you know. And so I thought that VACO did a good job in organizing. It was crossover time, so I think we had a pretty good indication of what we were supposed to be talking about as far as the House side and the Senate side. And I organized it and went with Bill and Craig and Annette and tried to do the usual spill. And I kept repeating over and over, please do no harm. Please do no harm. We really encouraged the support of, not having any unfunded mandates passed down, and please support K through 12 education. And we even put a plug in for higher ed because it was Hokie Day that day. Mm-hmm. So we did that. But basically, what I got from it was that nothing too exciting was going to be happening because this is an election year, and they're just going to sort of keep things sort of where they are. I asked about our water and sewer bill, and it went down 13-0, and I was told that the reason it did was because they just didn't like it. So that was the reason for that. No other comment was made. Cigarette tax didn't go. So I really don't know. I mean, I've been going there a long time, and I keep talking about if you're going to ask us to fund things, then we need to have a way to fund them. Or you need to fund them, or we need to have a discussion about who is responsible for funding what and how much. I say it every time just so everybody knows it is sad, but that was sort of it. I mean, it was good to see our folks from Montgomery County that represent Montgomery County. I think it's good to go there and you're in their space and their place, and they know that you're trying to advocate for back home. So I think that was a plus, and I think maybe, I don't know what Bill has to say about it, because was that your first time going with us or not?
I went with Clay.
You went with Clay one time? Yeah, okay. So that was pretty much, I guess, my report. We actually had to send our information to Greg Habib, and then I sent a copy to Nick because we weren't able to get it all down. And then we met with Joseph Yost Aid and got all the information down with Brittany. But otherwise, I guess that was pretty much it. But you can add to whatever. I don't know. This is how thick our packet was that we had to lobby all this. I don't even know let's see how many pages we had here. It was 15 pages.
You done?
Yeah, I think I'm finished.
Well,
more ways than one.
What I want to do, and I think Craig and Ms. Perkins will agree with me, that Vice Chair Biggs done a super job. A super job. We were sitting at the VACO day, and she's sitting there writing, taking out all this information and things like this, because there was no stone left unturned. And when she provided a copy of this to our legislators, it had all the notes of support, oppose, and reasons why, and everything on there. And when we walked into like Senator John Edwards' office, his aide was there first, and then he came, and all I could do is sit back and be all ears, because Murray didn't even get a break. She was and said, "Did you get this? Did you get that?" You know, and I'm like, man, this girl is a professional. You know, the way she was going. And then when we got to Senator Ralph Smith, I mean, I think you guys sort of made him a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, I never seen it. I think he was squirming just a little bit in the chair, and because Mary and Annette really brought the pressure on him there, and then they asked him about some bills that didn't pass, and like, I mean, and he was pretty frank. He says, "Well, how come this? Well, we just didn't like it, you know." But I mean, if it was an award that you could get, we would give it to you. And if you look at her head, I mean,
Did she get workers' comp claims?
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, you look at her head, but if you think she looks bad, you ought to see them. And I want to say this, and I really appreciate the majority of this board supporting the resolution for Trooper Andrew Fox. And you know, when you're in this business, and it's a brother and sisterhood, it's a culture that is very difficult to describe. But once you walk in those shoes for any period of time, you realize what it means. And just so we can honor the memory of Trooper Fox, I know you see another sign down the road to Roanoke County. It's Trooper Ricky McCoy. And I remember Ricky went to his funeral and everything. And but every time you ride up the interstate, you see that sign, and it reminds you of the contributions he gave to the Roanoke County, Montgomery County, and I think he worked 4 counties, Roanoke, Montgomery, Craig, and Floyd. And so he wasn't assigned up here, but when it was short, he would be in that area office. And when you look at Trooper Fox and what I've learned about him today in the past few days, seems like he epitomized what a trooper should be. Yes, he'd give you a ticket, but yes, if you needed help, he was there for you. I mean, you know, and things like that. So I'm just glad that we could serve a small part in honoring his memory. And let me find my gavel. It's a lot of power. We adjourn.